I was going to open this video with something like, this is not your dad's Alienware, but then I'd be dating myself, because I used to purchase and use high-end Alienware gaming PCs when I was younger. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the Alienware Pro headset. Now, the Alienware Pro headset launches at $230 US, and it's available in white or black. And I say the air quotes, or do the air quotes, because it's actually more of a dark gray. And I think the dark gray looks super sweet. It's pretty different from what I normally see. But it's nice to have two different colors. I think this dark gray is just awesome for personal preferences. But it's nice that you get two options. Now, this was sent to me for review. I won't affect what I say about it, but I always want to disclose that. I also have no kickbacks or special, commission links or affiliate links in the description. If it shows up on Amazon, I'll have a generic Amazon affiliate link to support the channel, because I do buy a lot of stuff that is not sent to me. But by all means, purchase it wherever you want. There's no financial thing with Alienware or Dell or anything like that, but I always want to disclose that. As far as basic specs go, this is a wireless closed-back headset. Closed-back meaning it's blocking out noise, headset because it has a mic, and wireless is pretty self-explanatory. Now, the battery life is rated at 75 hours on Bluetooth and 70 hours on 2.4 gigahertz, with a 35-hour battery life rating for active noise cancellation if you turn that on, which is very easy to do with the push of a button. Now, one of the big kickers with the Alienware Pro is the use of a graphene-coated driver. So there are different types of transducers or drivers out there, and this particular one is a 50mm, which is pretty typical, but graphene is kind of like the latest and greatest thing that you're seeing a lot of higher-end headsets use. You have the Logitech G Pro X2, which I think was the least expensive gaming headset on the market prior to the Alienware one. That was $250 retail, and that also used graphene. The Astro A50X and the new A50 Gen 5, which is basically the X without HDMI, those are all graphene as well. Now, I'm not saying graphene is always going to be better. It's a whole mix of things that affect sound quality and performance, but one of the advantages of graphene is it's extremely stiff and extremely light. And when you look at a traditional dynamic driver, this is something from like an older Turtle Beach, which a lot of headsets use this driver or this type of driver. You already heard the crinkle because I tapped it. So the idea is to be as light as possible because that affects driver performance and distortion, but you don't want it to flex or crinkle. So when you have a really strong steel and you press it on your ear, if you ever hear crinkle, that's because this is like a paper thin plastic driver. Think of it as like a few levels thicker than a plastic bag from a grocery store. Now, obviously that's not normal. You're not going to touch it like this, and under normal load, this isn't moving so much where it's going to cause massive issues, but graphene won't do that. This one's not exposed, so I can't tap it, but on graphene, it makes almost like a thud sound, and it's much more resistant to bending or the cone distorting, and when that happens, you have more accurate sound reproduction at higher volumes with lower distortion and all that good stuff that comes with it. Now, again, that doesn't affect all tuning. It doesn't mean it's going to magically sound perfect, but the idea is to have the cone itself not be a hindrance to what the potential of the headset is. Now, I talked about it being wireless, and this 2.4 gigahertz dongle is super compact. And just a little tip for stowing it, if you're ever not using it, when you have a USB-C headset and a USB-C dongle like this, you can just plug it into the headset. Obviously, that's not going to work, but that's a nice way to kind of secure it to make sure you don't lose it. Typically, if I can't do that, I just kind of tuck it into the pad, and that works too. Just sometimes they fall out. Now, it comes with a USB A to C adapter, so if you're plugging it into a computer or PlayStation 5 and you want to use the USB A port, it comes with that in the box. Now, this is high res, which means it's 24-bit. It's 24-bit, 48 kilohertz or 48,000 hertz in wireless mode, and if you use the cable, this will work as a USB-C headset. And on the cable mode, it works at 24-bit 96 kilohertz, which is a higher sample rate. Typically, it can sound better. Most people won't hear the difference, but it is nice that that's there. Now, on the note of compatibility with all this stuff, this is primarily a PC headset. That's where I recommend it the most, but it does work on PlayStation. It does work on Mac laptops. It works on mobile devices. This USB-C dongle will plug directly into an Android or iPhone if it's a USB-C iPhone. If not, get the appropriate adapter. So it's very flexible. I recommend using the dongle because even though it has Bluetooth, it's not going to be super low latency, especially if you have a an Apple phone. You're better off using the adapter if latency is important, or if you're watching movies on it, the adapter is going to make sure the whole lip sync thing is there. If you use Bluetooth, it might fall behind. Now, it does work wirelessly on PS5, and you can use the cable on PS5 as well. I wanted to test everything, and I couldn't hear a difference from a sound quality perspective, but what I could hear in a drastic way is that the cable is not as loud as the wireless mode on PlayStation. On PC, it doesn't make a difference. They both get crazy loud, but I don't think it gets loud enough with the cable. It's just the nature of how PlayStation works with certain devices. So just use wireless if you do want to use this on a PS5. Now there's a couple odd things when you plug this into Windows. So first off, on the dongle, when you connect it, you actually get two output options with this headset. There's game and chat. In the default, when you plug it in, for some reason ends up on chat. At least that's what Windows selected. And it wasn't just my desktop. I tried it on numerous machines just to confirm, and they always defaulted to chat. Once I assigned it to game, then it did that every single time, which was nice. So obviously I got excited because I see a chat output. I'm like, yes, $230. It has some other great things I like about it. Now we have game to chat mix. Let's go. But I start messing with the headset. I start saying like, okay, maybe if I press in the volume wheel, that's going to adjust game to chat mix. There's no way to press it in. There's no button. There's no holding sequence. Nothing to adjust game to chat mix. So, okay, we'll check the Alienware Control Center. No way to adjust game chat mix there. So I reached out to Alienware for comment. I'm like, I'm a little confused on this. I don't see any mention of it. And it's intentional. It has a second audio output device, but no way to control it through the headset. Instead, the feedback they got from the esports and pro players they consulted with, they just wanted the second output device, but then rely on either the game or your other software to control the volume on that second output device. So it is nice to an extent that you get the flexibility, but I'm kind of disappointed that for the casual side of things, there's no easy way to adjust that. You have to go through a virtual audio controller such as SteelSeries Sonar or something like that, something similar to adjust the volumes independently. As far as the controls go, it's pretty easy to use. Now you have a power switch on the right hand side. Now if I pull that down, you can see the blue kind of exposed there. That turns the headset on and now it's lit up. And the switch is switching right now to 2.4 gigahertz. Now because you could see a switch going to Bluetooth, that obviously indicates here, and I did test this, it's not simultaneous Bluetooth. You do have to pick one or the other. And if you're in USB cable mode, it will turn off all wireless connections, both Bluetooth and the 2.4. And if it's plugged in, it'll only work on this. So if you need to use it on Bluetooth and toggle between it, you're gonna have to leave it unplugged. And then you can see there's like a little dot here. If you pull that down and hold it down, it'll go into pairing mode and you'll see the light sequence blink differently. Now this is lit up in blue because it's connected to my phone successfully. We're gonna go back to 2.4. On the left-hand side, you have a mic mute. So if this is on and I tap that, you can see the microphone ring light up in red, which is really nice. It's a soft glow. I haven't found a way to turn this off if it's muted, so if that bothers you, just flip the mic up and out of the way. It's not a flip to mute mic, but the memory effect of this mic boom is awesome. Now the volume wheel is self-explanatory. This volume wheel does work on PC and Mac, but it doesn't do anything on your PlayStation device, so if you are planning on using it for console, plan on adjusting it through the on-screen menu of your PS5. The active noise cancellation option will toggle through three modes. You have off, you have ANC on, and you have transparency mode because these have little integrated microphones which will turn it into a passively open sounding headset. So if you need to hear your environmental sounds around you, it's a nice feature to add. You don't use that at home too much unless you have kids and you play at a lower volume or you just want to hear what's going on in your home. But if you travel and you're planning on using this as a Bluetooth headphone instead of a headset, microphone is detachable, which is awesome. A lot of people want that in this price range. And now I think you have a pretty conservative looking headset. You know, this is a gamer headset, especially with the Alienware logo and the big number on the side. However, I don't think the color scheme makes it look too flashy. The build quality is absolutely exceptional, but you can use that transparency mode to hear everything around you as you walk around. Now, as far as the rest of the build quality and comfort goes, I really think this is a big selling point with the Alienware Pro. So let's start with build quality. Now, it's very unassuming. You have this leather wrapped or leatherette wrapped headband. The padding doesn't seem like anything special if you're just squeezing it with your fingers, but it's very soft and plush, and when you wear it on your head, it feels amazing. This headset's rather light at only 310 grams compared to many other options out there. It's on the lighter to medium side of things. Now, I don't find that the headband comfort is any bit of an issue. There's no suspension strap, but I still like wearing it. And then you have these big forks here. Now the fork is made of plastic. Originally I thought it was metal because of how solid this feels in hand. There's no noise, there's no creaks. Even this adjustment, everything is solid. Like, this is probably the best feeling headset I've ever held under $300 as far as like build quality, at least initial build quality and comfort. Now if you twist the headband, you can see it kind of torques quite a bit. So it does handle quite a bit of stress. This rotates or pivots up and down. but these cups do not rotate. The one downside with this fork is it's a fixed position. It does telescope. It's crazy smooth. No clicks or anything like that. It's kind of buttery feeling almost. And the other thing on the note of that, you can see how long they come out. If you compress this all the way, some headsets tend to prefer a certain head size. This can get really small, so it's too small for my head in the smallest configuration. And then if I expand it, it's obviously perfect. If I go too large, it is far too large for my head. So regardless of how large your head is, there's a really good chance the Alienware Pro is going to be adjusted to find the right fitment. And there's enough resistance in the fork system, the telescoping yoke, that I don't feel like it's going to constantly adjust and, cause issues. One thing I want to note though is I mentioned the whole lack of pivoting, rotation of the cups itself. For me, it's not an issue. This performs significantly better on creating and maintaining a seal than my Arctis Nova Pro Wireless, which does have a rotating cup. Usually that helps conform to your head, but that has a single mounting point on the cup, which some people associate to failure. However, there is a geometry thing involved with how it puts pressure on your head. And on the Nova Pro Wireless, if I'm chewing or yawning or opening my mouth, you lose that seal, which greatly affects sound quality, and you lose a lot of bass. I was nervous that was going to be an issue with this because it didn't rotate, but that wasn't. These C-style yokes maintain a great seal on my head. Now, I wish it did still rotate because then it could be perfect. Basically, depending on your head shape, your insane jawline, whatever it is, if you have a little bit of a gap under here, that could affect ANC performance and sub-bass delivery. So keep that in mind, but I can say with me, it wasn't an issue. As far as the size of the cups go, they're not huge, but they are tall. Now, when you look at the width, it's rather narrow. I'd say 35 millimeters is being a little bit on the generous side. And if we look at the height of these pads, I'm going to be careful here because this ruler is kind of sharp. I'm getting just over 60 millimeters of height on the cup. Now, it's a staggered fit on the inside as far as depth goes. You have 22, 23 millimeters up front and about 27 millimeters on the back. The cups are angled inside, like the actual baffle itself, and there is padding here should your ears touch in case you have large ears. So the depth and overall size could be bigger. You can see how narrow that is. Basically what happens for me and my ears, I don't have the largest ears, but when I wear this, I have a little bit of the pad kind of tucking up behind my ear. Now the pad quality feels amazing. They just flat out say leatherette, which is a lower quality artificial leather. And leatherette does fail and wear and break down over time, especially after like 2 or 3 years of heavy use. This is a higher quality leatherette than something I've seen from a company like HyperX or the entry-level Logitech stuff. Those feel a little bit thinner and they typically fail sooner. This is like borderline a protein leather, which is a little bit closer to an actual real leather feel. It's a higher quality leatherette. I think it's somewhere in between. So even though it is just leatherette, I feel like, again, the quality is there. Overall comfort is excellent. The medium clamp force, slightly lighter clamp force, lighter weight, and how plush these pads are, I can wear this for a long period of time. The only issue I really have on this is after a while, that little pressure behind my ear is the only discomfort I get and as soon as like 45 minutes to an hour. It never makes me feel like I have to take it off, but when I finally do, I feel like that's the part that's feeling the most relief at that time. Now, a closed back headset has an advantage of what's called passive noise isolation, which is the ability to block out or reduce external environmental noises, or attenuate volume and reduce your environment sound around you. That helps combat things like PC fans and air conditioning system, and it's helpful in a competitive environment if you're trying to hear the most subtle details, or even in casual play if you just want to not be distracted by an AC turning off and on. A closed back is great for that. Now, active noise cancellation is a step further, and it uses an active microphone system to further tune that out. The passive noise isolation is remarkable in this price range. It's definitely class leading, so even without ANC on, it's still one of the best at drowning out external noise. The active noise cancellation is not class leading. I feel like the Turtle Beach Stealth Pro and the Ace-Zone Aspire Wireless both do a better job at even further reducing external noises while simultaneously having a slightly lower noise floor. This one, when it's on, if you have a very quiet environment, you don't need to use ANC, and that's two parts. We're going to get into sound quality in a second here, but the ANC being turned on does create its own little bit of white noise, and that will increase your noise floor by default. So it's all about finding the right balance and what you need.
All right, so there are some things I like and don't like about this mic. The first thing that I don't like is the sound quality. Let's be real. The mic doesn't sound great. It's pretty rough, and by today's standards, like even though there's some big benefits to what this mic can do, sound quality is not one of them. And I wish manufacturers really put more serious thought into this at this price range, personally. So big drawback purely on sound quality. Now, part of the advantage of this mic and the reason why it doesn't sound great is it's crazy aggressive with noise reduction or rejection in the background. So if you game in a noisy environment, again, this headset was built with like esports focus in mind, just like the Acer Aspire Wireless. So if you're typing loudly, let's just put an example here. This mic's not picking that up, but if you hear what that sounds like on the regular mic, it's a significant difference. It's much louder in real life, so it's good at blocking that out. And then if you have something crazy loud like an air duster, you can hear that.
Versus this.
Significantly quieter. And even with this on, it's still doing a good job at cutting some of that noise out.
So yeah, not a fan of the sound quality, but at least noise rejection is decent. Now, the other thing I want to talk about quickly is the Alienware software. So I'm going to hit don't show again. Now, I was not crazy about the fact that after like 2 minutes of this being installed, it auto ran itself. It auto installed Alienware Command Center. Not a fan of that at all. I don't like any software that auto runs, especially when you look at how it functions. So I'm going to hit skip. Now, on the positive side of things, the Alienware Command Center is not resource hungry. 1% typical average on CPU utilization, sometimes a little bit lower, like 0.6%, and the RAM usage was about 261 megabytes. So it doesn't do a lot. Now, what I do is if I click this little settings thing on the left-hand side, you can see the headset, battery status. If I go on sound, I can adjust volume, I can adjust ANC, which again, I have a button for. And in transparency mode, this is how loud you can hear your environment. So if you turn it up and down, it makes it easier to hear things around you. Now, on properties, I just want to explain this. There's no onboard EQ with this either. There's no like crazy extra bells and whistles and features. They wanted you to use your own software. So in this case, it is licensed by Dolby Atmos. So on Windows, if you plug this in, you'll install the Dolby Access app. Then you can use the shortcut to open Dolby Access and apply your own custom EQ there. So it won't save to the headset, which is again why I said it kind of favors the PC side of things. Now on the microphone settings, I can adjust the microphone gain. Side tone's not great either. I can max it out and I can hear myself in a distorted way and not loudly. So don't get this if you like a strong and clear sound side tone. It's almost a distraction more than anything else. So it's one of those headsets where I would leave side tone off. Microphone noise cancellation, there's on and off. Now it's basically always on. When you turn it on, it's just a little bit more extreme at pinpointing your voice. It puts more processing, I guess, into rejecting noise better. It didn't really affect my keyboard or this test much. Maybe it'll help if you're actually in an esports environment, but I couldn't replicate anything that would change it, and it doesn't affect the noise gate much either. So even if you're soft-spoken, you can still benefit from noise rejection and not worry about being clipped out. Battery is pretty self-explanatory. You can set the saver, which is, what threshold does active noise cancellation automatically turn off. And then sleep mode, you can change for anywhere from 15 to 60 minutes. So if it's disconnected, but the headset's left on, it'll turn off by itself. Lastly, you have the update tab. Now, getting into sound quality, I want to start with the objective side again, which is using a measurement system. It's a Gross KB006X Pinaclone. You don't have to know what that means, but that is the style of artificial ear I use, and I've measured countless of other headsets and headphones to compare it to, so I'll have a link in the description for that. It's good to compare it against my own measurements and not someone else's, because if they don't have the exact same rig and same ear system, the measurements are going to be slightly different. Now, when you look at the Alienware headset, it measures pretty well. There is a little bit of a recess in the mids, and the bass is really strong. Now, I'm going to get into how this sounds from a subjective standpoint, in my opinion. Think of it as kind of like a Harman tune, but a little bit more V-shaped. There's significantly more bass and more treble up top. It doesn't come across as overly sibilant or sparkly, even though it reads kind of bright. It didn't have like a super sharp S or a harshness that some other headsets have. So there's a big thing I have to point out here. Now the blue line is active noise cancellation on, and you can see the green line is with active noise cancellation off. This can be misleading. I'm not uploading the active noise cancellation measurement on the public version of this measurement, the Squiglink site, because this is the first headset I've ever used, measured, and listened to where active noise cancellation greatly affects the sound quality according to what volume you're set to. Active noise cancellation on at lower volume significantly boosts bass. There's tons of bass, and there's still some treble up top. And as you turn it up louder and louder, the bass almost like stays the same, or it eventually starts getting sucked out. Then it becomes a much brighter sounding headset that lacks a lot of bass. Toggle ANC back off, and then all of a sudden all of the bass is back. So the actual reading of the Alienware Pro kind of falls in line more with the green line, but I did want to explain that. If you're thinking it sounds weird, or you apply my EQ that I'll show you in a moment, and then turn it up with ANC on, and you're like, this sounds like crap, that's because your ANC is on, so turn it off. Now, I did make some EQ changes because frankly, the bass sounds incredible, but this is what I did to adjust it. If you apply this EQ, I find it cleans up the bass enough where it's still very enjoyable for immersive gaming, single player gaming, all the casual stuff that a lot of people like to play as well. But it also works much better for competitive play too, because the bass isn't overpowering everything else. This is my personal opinion. You can always, obviously try your own EQ settings, but maybe use this as a baseline, again with ANC off. Now, when it comes to the subjective side of things, I want to point out a couple things from a real world usability thing first. So I mentioned that it's wireless. I never want to forget this, but there is something I like to do called the toilet test, and that's how far I can go from the transmitter, because let's face it, it's wireless. We all walk around the house or home, wherever you are, from time to time. The wireless range is okay. The stability is excellent. I have no cutout issues, no infrequent dropouts or anything like that. Rock solid, and I tested this on Mac, PlayStation 5, and PC for extended periods of time. It's also partly why I wanted to delay releasing this video, because I just needed more time with it. So I only get about 35 to 40 feet, which is still excellent, especially, according to like a year ago or two. But some newer models are pushing like 50 to 70 feet, which is insanely far away, although some of those have less wireless stability. So I think depending on your location and how your home is set up, the wireless performance is still excellent, but it's definitely not class leading. The other thing I want to say, this is the biggest issue I have, is the ANC thing. If you're traveling and you're like, wow, this is a beautiful headset, it sounds like it has everything I want at 230. It has great sound quality, which I'll talk about, good comfort, build quality, and it's subtle enough where you can actually be seen in public, especially when you pop the mic off. The issue is, if you're traveling on an airplane and you turn ANC on, well, you don't have the ability to save any EQ to this. And if you turn it up a little bit because the plane is loud and the ANC is on to combat the plane sounds, you're losing a ton of your bass. So now you have to decide of, do I want to have more bass and more airplane sound, or less and less of both? And it's an interesting conundrum. I really hope a firmware update fixes that, but I just wanted to make sure that I drove that point home, because it's a very important thing to consider. Now, for those of you still watching and you're concerned about sound quality, this is where I think the Alienware Pro has the biggest advantage in this price range. It sounds like a significantly more expensive headset, especially with some minor EQ and ANC off, again driving that point home. I wanted to prove a point. So the Logitech G Pro X2 had graphene drivers as well, which means, of course, higher power handling, less distortion, all of that. It's comparably priced, $250 MSRP, but $230 at the time of this review. Also a removable mic, 50-hour battery life, no active noise cancellation, no simultaneous Bluetooth either, but it does have 3.5mm analog mode. And the transmitter has an analog connection too, which helps kind of for streamers. So at the end of the day, which one would I pick? Well, unless you need the analog feature, this has a comparably not great microphone. So to me, the sound quality difference of the Alienware Pro was pretty profound. And this isn't a terrible sounding headset either, mind you. It was still one of the better ones, again, because it's so clean and low in distortion. This sounds like my $300, or I'd say closer to like $400 to $600 Bluetooth headsets or headphones more. So like the Focal Batiste, when you look at something like the Edifier S3 and S5, those have, which all three have a different sound profile, but there's a certain cleanness and sense of control in low distortion and vocal smoothness that comes through most of it. Not the S5 from Edifier, that thing lacked most vocals. But this just sounds great, honestly, for music, especially if you're a bass head. You listen to a lot of hip hop and EDM. Even without EQ, turn the ANC off, and you can seriously have an amazing sounding closeback that, to me, is still very comfortable to wear. Now, the interesting thing about how this headset was positioned from a sound quality perspective, made by esports players. Lots of esports players were involved with developing this and making sure it was a sound profile they liked for various FPS games. I expected a brighter upper mids, low treble, and less bass, because that is what's more effective in competitive play. This thing is much more V-shaped than that, lacking a little bit in the upper mids while also having a very strong and enveloping bass. If anything, I find this sound profile to be significantly better for single player casual type games. If you're playing Helldivers on PlayStation or Cyberpunk, all of these sound amazing on this headset. It really is an awesome, like, theater cinema like experience. If you do my EQ or pull some of the bass down, even if that's all you do, it makes a big difference on the competitive side. Now, the driver matching is great, the clarity is still great, it doesn't sound too compressed, which is a whole nother thing that I haven't really covered in detail yet on headset videos. It's gonna make its own video, but wireless headsets have very different compression algorithms, and some transmitters carry a lot more detail than others. This doesn't stunt a lot of the subtle details like the Logitech does, or even the Astro A50 series. You get more of the subtlety, so if you play around with the bass to your liking, it really is a great experience, and on the competitive side, with the bass reduction, is still wonderful for FPS games. Is it my #1 pick for FPS? No, but with EQ and the comfort, I have no problem playing with this. I don't feel like the headset's holding me back at all. I did like the stock sound profile for racing games as well. I play a lot of Gran Turismo. I have a sim rig for some other games like iRacing or Le Mans Ultimate, which is basically dead now, but I wish they would revive that and put more work into it. It's great for racing because the bass doesn't become as much of an issue. If anything, it's really nice to hear the pops and bangs from some cars. You know, bumping another car sounds fun. It's just a very smooth, easy to listen to experience. It's not shouty in any way. There's no weird echoes or reverbs. They did a great job from a mechanical engineering perspective, or acoustical, and I'm making myself sound like I don't know what I'm saying. On the acoustic side of things, when you're designing an ear cup and the inner baffle and dampening, and all of these things play a difference in sound quality or have a big impact on it, they nailed it. The issue is there's just a lot of bass. And if you're a competitive player, that's not something you want necessarily. So try my EQ, and then I think you get a lot to like out of it. As far as final thoughts go, there are a lot of things to like. I think the build quality is class leading in this price range. I think comfort is excellent. I like that the mic's detachable. I really like the aesthetics. At $230, there's a lot of headsets, especially because this is marketed again for esports. I wish it came with some kind of travel pouch or sleeve or some protective case, because you need something to travel with if you're going to esports. So when I look at the sound quality and build quality and I factor that in, maybe adding a case would have increased the price too much. So it's all about maintaining perspective. I also think the microphone could have been a lot better. Noise cancellation or not, at least give me the option to disable some of those features to get a much cleaner sounding mic for casual use at home, which this does a great job at. So the hunt continues. I still feel like there's no such thing as the perfect headset, and even if there is, there's no perfect headset for every single person out there, because we all value different things and have different preferences. This is a wonderful headset for at home, and if you like the things I talked about to an extent to consider, I think you'll be very happy with it. If the cons are too big of a con for you to consider, well, thankfully, even at this price range, there's a lot of other great models to look at. I have a lot of other reviews on my channel, so if you're new to here, take a look, see what you think, and research some others that might be on your radar. I will be doing some roundups, but overall, it's a lot to pack in on a video like this. So I didn't want to compare against too many models. I think the G Pro X is probably the best stacked against this. So yeah, doesn't get my all-star or guarantee recommendation. I don't believe in tier lists or anything like that. But there is a lot to like here, and I think Alienware is on the right path, especially from a sound quality perspective. It's probably one of the best sounding ones from music outside of something like the Maxwell or the Master & Dynamic MG20. It's just a wonderful headset for music, especially with a little bit of EQ. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching and making it all the way to the end. If you like what you see, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, I'd love to see it in some future videos. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.